There's a parenting move that feels wrong every time you do it. Looking away at the playground when your kid is struggling to make friends. Letting them be uncomfortable instead of jumping in. Keeping your own preferences, even when they want what you have. It goes against every instinct. But Professor Cho Sun-mi, one of Korea's most respected child psychologists, has been making the case for years that this kind of strategic indifference, knowing when not to intervene, is one of the most important things a parent can do. Not neglect, not coldness, just a deliberate, uncomfortable choice to let your child experience the world without you smoothing every edge. Today, we're unpacking what that actually looks like, why it works, and the specific habits Professor Cho says quietly undermine it, even when parents think they're doing everything right. Professor Cho opens with a line that stopped me cold. The role you take on as a parent doesn't just shape your child's childhood. It shapes who becomes their anchor for life. And here's the twist most of us miss. The primary attachment figure isn't necessarily whoever spends the most hours with the kid. It's whoever the child associates with actually meeting their needs, the parent who first notices they're hungry, thirsty, or cold, and actually does something about it. You can be in the room all day, but if you're not the one who responds, you're not the attachment figure. Someone else is. Then there's something most parents never think about. Boys learn what's normal by copying the same-sex parent. If dad naturally pitches in with the dishes, folds the laundry, wipes the counter, the son grows up thinking that's just what men do. It's not a lecture, it's osmosis. But if dad never lifts a finger around the house, and then mom turns to the son and asks him to help, Professor Cho says the son's gut reaction is, "Why should I?" He's not being difficult. He genuinely doesn't have the model for it. Dad is the invisible instruction manual. And then there's a dynamic that's incredibly common when grandparents help with childcare. When there's tension between mom and grandma, that tension doesn't stay between the adults. It flows straight into the child's emotional world. Joe gives this example. Grandma telling the kid, "I'm not giving you a snack, and it's only because your mom said so." On the surface, that sounds harmless. But what the child actually absorbs is, "Mom is the reason I don't get what I want, and grandma would give it to me if she could." That quietly recruits the child into taking sides in an adult conflict they never should have been part of. Okay, so here's where a lot of parents get tripped up, including me, honestly. There's a huge difference between being an authoritative parent and being an authoritarian one. Same root word, completely different worlds. Professor Cho defines authoritative parenting with a single sentence that stuck with me. It's when the child thinks, "I have to listen, even though I don't want to." Notice what's happening there. The child isn't thrilled. They still don't want to do it. But whether they're going to listen isn't up for debate. The boundary holds, even when the feelings around it don't. Authoritarian parenting looks similar on the surface, but it's actually the opposite. Joe describes it like this. The parent offers a choice. Do you want to do it now or in 5 minutes? And then spends those 5 minutes forcefully steering the child toward the answer the parent already wanted. That's not autonomy. That's fake autonomy. You dressed up control as a choice, and kids catch on faster than we give them credit for. And then she says something that stops a lot of parents cold. A parent should never be a friend to their child. Never. Not because you can't be warm, close, or fun with them. You absolutely can. But friendship implies equal footing, and a parent and child are never on equal footing. Pretending otherwise does the child no favors. Her metaphor for this is the one that really landed for me. She compares parenting to hiking in the Himalayas. Up there, you don't want a friend beside you. You want a guide. Someone who's made the climb before, who knows where the ice is thin, who says not that way with total confidence, not because they're bossy, but because they actually know the path and you don't. A friend agrees with you. A guide keeps you alive. That's the job. This next part is going to be spicy, so brace yourself. Professor Cho points to a very specific, very modern trend. Parents who hand their kids book after book to teach them about the world, how to make friends, how to handle emotions, how to navigate conflict, instead of letting them actually go out and live it. Her warning is blunt. When a child learns about the world primarily through books instead of real, messy, face-to-face experience, it can produce social difficulties that look a lot like the traits we associate with developmental delays, not because the books are bad, because books are a substitute for practice, and there's no substitute for practice. Here's where it gets specific. If a parent is constantly the one arranging playdates, smoothing over friend conflicts, and stepping in the moment a social situation gets awkward, the child never builds the skill themselves. And by the time they're 8 or 9, the age where kids are expected to navigate the social world mostly on their own, they simply can't. They've never had to. So what does Cho actually tell parents to do? Her advice plays out at the playground. Look away, literally. Don't stand there making eye contact, ready to swoop in. When you're watching too closely, your child either performs for you or waits for you to manage the interaction. Look away, and they have to walk up to the other kids themselves. And this one surprised me. Don't bring snacks. When a child gets hungry at the playground and there's no snack in mom's bag, they have to do something about it. They have to find you, ask, communicate a need out loud. That's not deprivation, that's practice. And this is where Cho gives what might be the best definition of a good parent I've ever heard. A good parent is one who can endure their own anxiety. Following them around is easy. Watching your kid wander off towards strangers, or sit there hungry for 10 more minutes, or fumble a social interaction, that's nerve-wracking. Every instinct says step in. But the job isn't to make the anxiety go away by rescuing them. The job is to sit with your own discomfort so they can build theirs. Okay, this section might sting a little, but stay with me. Professor Cho has a list of phrases she says parents should never say to their kids. Because these phrases don't just criticize, they deny the child's existence. Things like, "What are you even good at?" Or, when the kid does something typical, "Of course that's what you do." Or the one that really gets me, "You did this yesterday and you still don't know?" On the surface, these sound like everyday, frustrated parent comments. But Cho's point is that what they actually communicate to a child is, there is nothing redeemable about you. Said once, in a bad moment, it's forgivable. We're all human. Said as a pattern, it becomes the child's entire self-concept. Then there's a second category that sounds completely different, but does similar damage. Martyr language. It's all for your own good. You are my everything. Mom and dad deprive ourselves so you can have this. These phrases sound loving, even noble, but Cho warns that said consistently, especially to a young child, they quietly load the kid up with debt they never agreed to take on. A small child hearing, "You are my everything," isn't comforted by that. They feel the crushing responsibility of being someone's entire reason for existing. That's not a gift, that's a weight. So here's the example Cho uses that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. Say, mom genuinely loves chocolate ice cream, and her kid also wants the chocolate. The instinctive martyr move is, mom quietly gives up her favorite flavor, again, because that's what good moms do. But Cho says, no, get your own ice cream. Let your kid see that you have a preference, and that your preference matters too. Children need to know their parent is a full person with wants of their own, not an infinite, self-erasing resource. And this, genuinely, is what strategic indifference actually means. It was never about being cold or withholding love. It's about a mother who holds on to her own identity, her own needs, her own chocolate ice cream. because a parent who exists as a whole person gives their child permission to become one too. Okay, last big idea, and this one genuinely surprised me. Professor Cho starts with something that cuts against everything we're taught to believe. Doing well in school is only about 50% intelligence. A high score doesn't automatically mean a smarter kid. In fact, she says a child with about average grades who's genuinely autonomous and proactive, who does things on their own initiative, is often in a better position long-term than a straight A kid who needed to be managed into every single one of those A's. That autonomy piece shows up in a really specific, really relatable place: phones. Joe's take is that taking a phone away completely doesn't protect kids. It isolates them. In today's world, the phone is where friendships actually happen. Cut it off entirely and you haven't removed the distraction, you've cut your kid off from their social world. Her advice, instead: give the phone at the right developmental time, set clear rules around it up front, and then loosen those rules gradually. As the child gets older, or as the desire for more access grows strong enough that fighting it constantly isn't worth the relationship damage. It's a slow release, not a locked box. And here's the detail that really surprised me. Joe says the more sensitive and higher IQ a child is, the earlier they start doing their homework voluntarily without being told. Not because they're pressured into it, because they're wired to notice consequences early and adjust on their own, which tells you something important. The goal was never to force the compliance. It was to raise a kid capable of choosing it themselves. And this ties back to everything we've talked about. Professor Joe points out something counterintuitive. People with anxious attachment styles often end up highly educated and high achieving. Anxious attachment often forms when a child grows up unsure whether they're truly accepted. So they achieve, they perform, they collect the grades and the degrees, because on some level, they're trying to earn a love that felt conditional. It looks like success from the outside. It feels like a treadmill from the inside. The strategic indifference Joe talks about isn't cold. It's actually the opposite. It's a parent secure enough in themselves and in their child that they don't need to hover, manage every grade, or control every phone notification. They can let the child struggle, choose, and come back. And the message the child absorbs is, I am loved regardless, not because. Regardless. That's the gift. Not more control, not more sacrifice, just steady, unshakable, boundaried love, with a little room to breathe. So, where does this leave us? Somewhere between hovering and neglect, there's this quieter, sturdier way of parenting. Less panic, more presence, fewer negotiations, more trust. It's not glamorous, and Instagram won't reward it. But your kid's future self might. If this shifted something for you, hit subscribe. This channel is where we translate the best parenting thinking from around the world into stuff you can actually use on a Wednesday night. And I want to hear from you in the comments. What's one thing you've stopped doing for your child recently that turned out to be a really good decision? I read every reply. And if you want more of this, more Korean parenting science that actually changes how you see things, hit subscribe. New episodes every week. I'll see you in the next one.